What's going on, y'all? All right, it's the next day. I think I've got everything I need to finish up the wheel bearing job. I'm not even going to bother with the auto leveling system today. Don't want to wear that out. Looks like I can get the jack right here behind this wheel. So we will start here. I've been taking tires off of vehicles for a very long time. My grandfather, who I grew up in his household, always made sure that I knew how to take care of tires. One of the things you always learn is don't lift it all the way up before you break these loose, because they're on there tight. And so you want some of the weight of the whatever vehicle you're taking tires off of to hold it in place and not move it while you break them loose. Once they're broken loose, then you can lift it up and use something like a drill, or even just by hand loosen them up from there. Once you've broken them all free, now you can jack it up. You want the tire to be able to spin once you've got it high enough. There it goes. I can see movement. Tires rubbing on the Anderson blocks back there. So I was originally using sockets that had 12 points inside. The problem with that was one of those nuts over there wound up basically getting worn out because it doesn't fully grasp the sides of the nut. So when I went to AutoZone last night, I bought two new 6-point sockets for 3/4 inch for these lug nuts. That way that should cut down and prevent tearing up any more of the nuts. So this is interesting right here. This is the dust cap, and it's set up some kind of way so that you could add more grease to it. The other one was cracked. This one is just like gone. And I really struggled yesterday with getting this thing off of here. I tried using a flathead screwdriver to get it off. That was kind of tough. Let's take a whack at it. It's so weird to me to just smack on things to be the way to do something. I'm used to using a screwdriver or a ratchet or something to that effect to make it go. And there it goes. Just enough to get the screwdriver in, so now I can actually do it properly. Yeah, that just kind of drives me nuts to use that as your primary source of working on something. All right, time for me to start gloving up. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to film this, whereas yesterday on the previous video I said I wasn't going to do any kind of detailed videos, I noticed a difference between Sean's on our Vision Nomadic Living. When he got to this point, he talked about a castle nut as well as a cotter pin, and then I get in here and I don't have the castle nut or cotter pin. I have something very different. This gold colored pin type thing that goes over the top of it, and then you've got the big nut there, which is not, you don't want that tightened down. That shouldn't be tight. You should be able to do it by hand to take that off. I use the screwdriver or the pliers to take the gold piece off, and then with my gloved up hands I can take off this nut, and I'll put them all in the dust cap as a way to keep them there. And I am starting to think, I made the comment that I don't think that any grease has been added, but when I look how the grease is right here in the Zerks, which the Zerks is the connection for where you would connect a grease pump. I mean, maybe that was done by the manufacturer, but it is possible that somebody came in here afterwards and pumped in grease. It's very possible. All right, time to glove up. These latex gloves are pretty decent. I'm glad I found some that were large to extra large. They fit me properly. And I've had multiple cases yesterday where I expected these to tear and they didn't. This is the Venom brand. I found these at the Ace Hardware. Large to extra large. Yeah, there's several things. Like on this, there's a little nub thing here for the jack. It like snagged on the gloves and twisted all the way around. I'm like, oh, that's gonna puncture a hole in the glove. I'm so used to gloves that get punctured, and they're fine. Nothing bad happened. I was surprised. Trying not to damage this brass part here. I think it gets bent a little as it comes off. See, I wish I had more technical answers for you as to what this is called. That's something I've struggled with when trying to work on anything, cars, anything else. I've always struggled with the proper technical terms. You know what that is? Please educate the rest of us by leaving a comment. And we would love to know what that's called. Put that there in the dust cap. Now this, yep, hand tightened. Easy to take that off. So as Sean on Our Vision Nomadic Living, he would have had what's called a castle nut here. Very similar item. I can definitely see a mixture of red grease as well as some dirt in here. So I'll be wiping that up good. I really like the idea of, I watched a lot of bearing packing videos since the last video I made. And I like the idea of having some kind of a solvent or something that this stuff sits in to clean rather than just wiping it out. Okay, there should be a washer here. There we go. There's the washer. This is a very specific washer because there's threads around the side here, and then it's flat on this side to keep things from moving into the wrong orientation. It makes sure that everything is exactly where it needs to be by having the flat on the side there. And so this washer is very specific to this then, because it has the flat side to match. Which means, if you lose or damage this washer, you're going to need to replace it with a very specific washer. Okay, come on. There we go. Good look at the darkness of the dirty grease. Still some red in there. The flat side's right there. If you can see that. Ah! Put that in the dust cap. And I want to take out a clean towel. I'm gonna put a clean towel down here and put stuff on it. So here comes the outer bearing. Just as dirty as can be. Let's use the screwdriver. I think yesterday I actually used the overall rotor here to move it out. I'll do that again. And take a look at just how dirty that is. See, there is some red to it, but there's a lot of dirt. It'll be interesting for me, this being my first time doing this, and my only reference point is other YouTube videos. So to go back and do this in a year from now and see if it was this dark colored in just a year's time, that will be interesting. I'm a very analytics guy. I love having all the details and reading all the interesting parts. Putting together all the analytics. Okay. So here comes the rotor. A lot of brake dust. You can look, I can see these are the brake shoes for the drum brakes, and there's still a good amount of pad around the side. I'm sure somebody out there would be like, oh, that's not in spec, that's 2 millimeters out. I don't know. But I also just realized I forgot my seal puller. Dun, 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 dun. So you go, you look inside there, look at all that brake dust. So there's some red in the middle, but where the bearings themselves actually rotate inside of, that's where it's pretty dark. So this is used to get in here and just kind of pop this seal out. And it definitely bends it, kind of wrecks it. That's a big part of why you're gonna get a new grease seal. So I may not be touching the grease right now, but this brake dust is also a mess. There we go. There is the grease seal. And I think today I will just go ahead and toss that right in the trash. Like I said, it's bent up. It's not something you really reuse. And there is the inner bearing. That's the big one. So this one has more purple This is kind of more what I was expecting to find. I would say the back one was a lot dirtier than this. This is kind of how I was hoping to find all the bearings, was about that dark purple like that, not to a complete brown color. So I don't know if that means that there's more wear going on the rear axle than there is the front. Not really sure what that means. Once again, I'm still learning. We're learning together. I'm just decided I would share more of this information with y'all today. The reason I decided to do that was because, like I said, I was noticing some differences from the videos I was watching. So I wanted to put this reference material out there. Anytime you learn something from YouTube, I always recommend don't base your learning off of one video. Just like people reference getting a second opinion from a doctor, I reference getting a second opinion from like a mechanic or a technician. Learn from multiple people. Really do your research and then culminate all that data, accumulate, aggregate all that data into your way forward to how you're going to solve the problem. Take a look inside there. A lot more purple in this one. This one has a lot more brake dust in the drum area. So I'm wondering if maybe the seal was a little bit in worse shape on the rear axle. And possibly it was soaking up more brake dust in with the bearings. And this one was just doing a better job keeping it out. But overall, yeah, this one to me looks a lot better. Now the front seal, or the front bearing, was dirtier, but if we remember, the front of that dust cap was also broken. So that very well could account for why that front bearing looked dirtier. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording right now and just start doing cleanup. I don't think you need to watch all that, and we will resume when I'm packing some bearings. All right, so I learned a couple things just now that I wanted to kind of share with y'all. Things I didn't understand until I saw it up close and could better grasp it. So this is the Zerks, where you can pump grease in. And I didn't comprehend, like my brain wasn't figuring out what that meant exactly. Like, where does the grease go? Well, now that I'm here, I can see that if you pump grease in here, it comes out this hole right here. So fresh grease goes through the middle and then comes out. So the grease seal would be here. And then the inner bearing would be here. The outer bearing would be here. This area is just kind of open and doesn't touch anything. And I'm going to bring that up here for just a moment too. I thought that was writing. That does not appear to be writing. Looks like little scratches in the metal. But at the same time, the bearings shouldn't be touching there. That should just be in the open. It's kind of rough in that spot on the inside of the rotor too. So the outer bearing should be here. The inner bearing should be right there. And then with it all closed up inside of here, so I would pump the grease here and it would squirt out here and fill this area. Not sure if that's how everybody else's is. Like I said, this is my first time ever doing this. So I get to learn this right now and share my awe with you. I'm like a kid at a science museum. Woo woo! Pretty cool. I'm gonna run out of these sooner than I thought. That's gonna be trouble. Need more shop towels. Tanya just brought me some paper towels to get me by until I can get up and go get more of the blue shop towels. I figured I would use that as a break. Kind of has a different texture than the stuff I was using yesterday. Interesting. I was asking people, like, which one should I get? And everybody's like, it doesn't matter. Nobody really had a preference. But now that I look at it, it might have a difference. So I would always say start with your inner one, because then you're gonna put the inner one in there and put the seal on it. Yeah, I think it would be great if you had the time to just like set this down inside of something. Sean was mentioning that they used to soak them in gasoline just to kind of dissolve all the grease and dirt out of there. So the goal is pack the grease in and then the dirty stuff will start squeezing up out of the top. I guess once I get that out and I start moving it, it has a similar feel to it. Can you see The dirty grease starting to come out the top there.
Why is the door wide open?
See that? You get the dirty stuff just coming right out the top. But there is good red stuff coming out already too. So, like I said, this might actually go a little faster today. Because yesterday it was like everything was just coming out completely dark. Dirty grease. Dirty grease. And I can adjust the bearing around a little bit, move it around and get more out. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video now, stop recording right now, and I'll keep working on this. Pretty sure you don't wanna watch me go through this whole thing. It's not necessary. All right, I've got the inner bearing all greased up and put back in, and then I put the inner seal on top of it, but it's very tight, very snug. It's going to need a mallet. Now I would prefer to have had a piece of wood to put across the top of it like Sean did in RV Vision Nomadic Living. How many times can I say RV Vision Nomadic Living? Let's just say Sean. But I'm gonna go ahead and use the mallet here just to kind of tap it in. Hopefully. It would be easier if I had the piece of wood because then it would kind of distribute the weight across the top. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and put the drum rotor back on the hub. Yeah. Trying to use all those words properly. I'm going to do one kind of last, try to get some of that brake dust out of there. It would have been nice, I guess, to bring a shop vac down here to shop back some of that brake dust out of there. Now I'm gonna do cleanup of the outer bearing as well as the washer, that gold colored brass thing, and then the desk cap. Then I'll do the repacking and put it all together. So here's the outer bearing. I've wiped it up quite a bit with a paper towel. You can still see some dirty grease through the wider opening there on the bottom. I just kind of kept turning it in my hand while holding a paper towel, and dirty grease would come out the sides. Allowed me to wipe it up a little bit better, get more grease. There's still some coming out though. So now I will start to pack it and squish out the rest of it. The outer bearing is cleaned up, packed in there, and I am ready to proceed with putting the rest of the parts back in. Next up will be that washer that's flat on one side, on the inner side. Like I said, it's a very specific washer. You wouldn't want to lose or break that, or you're gonna be stuck until you can get another one. It's obviously an important part. Nice and cleaned up. Having plenty of grease in there is an excellent thing to have. You don't want to skimp on the grease at this point. Then comes this large nut, which this is not going to be tightened down or torqued down. It's literally just going to be put on here snug. Well, the one guy I was watching this morning who was packing bearings, he talked about, use this, he says, tighten it down and then loosen it. Tighten it and loosen it, tighten it and loosen it. And what that will do is help everything get seated properly as far as the bearings go. Look, you can see the grease kind of squeezing out of there as I tighten it. Turn it a bit and then loosen it. Tighten it some more. Spin it a bit, then loosen it. And when you're done, you're actually going to leave that a little looser. So that's not actually spinning. All that's doing is keeping the bearings in place. That's its primary job. I'm going to leave it about right there. Not a real big fan of the way that the brake noise sounds, but I'm not an expert on that either. So this brass or gold piece, it has a flat piece right there that's going to go in that flat spot. There we go. So that works in conjunction. It has the flat piece to go on the flat sided of the threaded part of the hub. That will keep the nut from spinning, keeping the nut from spinning its way off of there. I said, they work together. Now this dust cap being broken, having the hole right there, obviously made this area dirtier. It didn't affect the back, but it did affect the front. It might be in my best interest to order another one of these and replace it when I get the chance. Okay. Now I'm going to say something controversial that's probably going to spark a debate. These regular paper towels, in my opinion, did a better job of wiping up dirty grease than the blue ones. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. Nothing more annoying than going to use your tools the next time and they're just a greasy mess. And then your entire toolbox area is a greasy mess. You can do what you want. But that's how I was taught. Torque wrench, already set and ready. Any chance you get to inspect your tires is good. Let's see, about 1 year and 1 month old. They're Michelin's, got them at Discount Tire. Been happy with them so far. I recommend Discount Tire because they have locations around the United States, more so than, say, like I used Sam's Club before. Sam's Club a lot of times would struggle to get you in. They don't have as many locations as Discount Tire does. The customer service at Discount Tire has just been one of the best I've had experience with. I walk through the door, give my name and phone number, and they've got my entire tire history for anything I've ever bought. It's great. And they're like, okay, so we need 3 more of those types of tires. Truck, RV, they handle it both. Oops. Knocked my hubcap through. There. If you work with them, like coordinate, talk to them ahead of time, they'll set it up so that you can pull in with your RV right across the front of the bays. And they'll do it in a way that they're obviously going to block traffic while they're working on stuff. And if they have to, they'll do like an all hands on deck to take care of your RV. Like I've had them out there when we got these tires. I think they had like 3 or 4 jacks out there lifting up the RV, just knocking it out as fast as possible, trying to get it done and get us back out of there. So there was a waiting period between the time of like when I scheduled it, put some money down, paid for it, and they're like, okay, it's going to be like 2 or 3 hours, and then come back with the RV, and then like, all right, at 3:45 you're going to pull up and you're going to block everybody, and we're going to come out there, we're going to change all those tires and then get you back out of there. Great service. Once you get it on there, if you're struggling to get the wheel back on, I'm not saying tighten them down, just throw a couple of the lug nuts on there just to make sure it doesn't come back off. You can kind of resituate things from there. Now that way I don't have to worry about this completely falling off again. The way that a lug nut is designed, if you're new to tires, which you probably aren't if you're watching this video, you're probably not new to tires. The rounded part of that lug helps you as you seat it down and tighten it down. If it's not exactly perfectly on there, that rounded part will help it get centered as you're tightening it down. That is the beauty of the lug nut. Make sure that you look up your model specific torque settings, because the last thing you want to do is over torque these. When I was dating Tanya, she had a brand new Ford Focus 2000 and she had a flat tire problem, and I went and I fixed it for her. And then when I put the new tire on for her, I was showing out for her dad and her brothers, and I over torqued it. Snapped a lug right off her brand new car. You don't want to do that. Most of the time when it comes to like cars, I've never used a torque wrench. I know what it feels like when I'm gonna break it. I've got that muscle memory. This was interesting. It said the first stage is 65 pounds of pressure. The final stage is 120. And I had to text Sean and was like, Sean, what is this? And he was saying, get them all using the star pattern. They have a pattern of which direction to go in the manual. He says start them, get them all to 65, set it to a higher number, and do it all again in the same star pattern, and keep going like that until you've got them down to 120. All right, so I think I did 65 and then 100 and then 120 on that one. Right now I'm just hand tightening them down. this can't be used to torque them down. It just won't even work. It's stopped at that point. It's done. So now I will switch over to this. Use my new 3/4 inch deep sock 1/2 inch drive. Set this to, I'm at 60, and turn it to 65. So on this Craftsman, I pull this back and then I twist this until it goes past the 60 and I'm to the 5 right there. I'm showing you this because I first got this and I had no idea what I was doing. Which reminds me, in order to properly torque it down, I'm going to have to put some weight on it. All clear. Okay. Did you hear the click? So that click means I've reached my 65 foot-pounds of pressure. I can move to the next one. Daisy, you goober. All right, 65 pounds of pressure. I was debating if I should take put some more weight on it. I think I'll take it up to 100 pounds first. Pull this back and twist the handle until I get up to 100 and the 0 right on the main line. Now this one isn't as relevant. This is kind of the middle one. So I can kind of set this to whatever I want. I don't know if you can see that or not. Set that to 100, and now I'm going to go through the same pattern. Okay, and it makes me nervous since I was just telling you about how I've broken a lug. The amount of pressure I'm putting on here makes me nervous. That's why I'm glad I have this torque wrench now to tell me that I'm doing it right. Okay, that's 100 foot-pounds of pressure. Now I will adjust it again up to the final 120. There we go, 120. It's already pretty close. Lug nuts are all tightened down to 120. I'm gonna call it a quits for the video today. Let's take the weight down off, get the jack out of here. Coming down. Jack's clear. So I'm really excited about the fact that those Anderson levels are working for me to jack up the RV, because when we're driving down the road and if we have a flat tire and we need to work on it, that tells me, because those aren't being used obviously at that point, sometimes I will have jacked all these up with those. So if I had done that, then I wouldn't have them available to me right now. That I should use the wood like I'm using right now, and then I'll have those available to do this kind of work. Or if we have a flat tire out there on the road and we need to jack it up, I now know my sequence. I now know what works. It's good to have this kind of practice. So I think I will end today's video right there. I won't bother with filming the other side because it should be basically the same things, just in a different location. I'm going to go to the store and buy some more blue paper towel thingies, shop towels. Even though the white paper towels are kind of working better, I like to have a little bit mix of both. They feel like they both have their own separate purpose. But I thank y'all so much for watching our video. I hope that this may have been of some use to you. Like I've said, don't just watch one video. Watch multiple videos. So I will list in this one that this is the open range 374 BHS from 2020, because like the torque settings, they're different. Sean's torque settings were 125 and he's got an older open range RV. Make sure you look up those details. Don't just watch my video, watch some of the other videos like our Vision Nomadic Living or the channel Why Wait. Just add all that information together before you start your job so that you can do a good job. So thanks again for watching our videos. Remember, life happens, even maintenance. Don't let it stop you. Stay fresh, cheese bags.